Arch Advocate Podcast. Did you enjoy that intro music? That's brand new music made especially for this show by one. Oh, let's see here. Sorry, Samuel. That's listener Samuel made that for you. Brother, I got to be honest with you. I totally forgot that I had asked you to do that. It was so long ago, and I got a baby on the way, and I just got, I got lost in these. I was very happy to see that in my inbox today. I finally have intro music. Woohoo! I'm growing up. I'm becoming like a real live podcaster, an adult podcaster. Listen, lot to get to today. I want to talk about France. All right. French people. Oh, goodness. Listen, I believe that anytime that you criticize somebody, that, like if you sit them down and you have to be critical of them, like if you're their boss or manager or whatever, that it's always a good practice to, make sure that you pepper in some praise before you get to the criticisms. And I've got a lot of nice things to say about France. And unfortunately, I doubt very much I'm going to be able to get to any of those because I got a lot of bad things to say about France too. All right, you know what? That's not very fair. Let me just say this. I was talking to that American lady that's in this little village that I'm in right now on Sunday, and we were talking about wine. And I explained to her that one time it was right after I had left becoming being a commodity trader, and I had plenty of money, but I was bored. So I started looking for a job a little bit more intensely than I was prior. And I found a job as a wine broker. And I thought that would be a really interesting job because going in, the training, paid training, was 2 weeks long. And what they were saying is we're going to teach you how to be a wine connoisseur because you're going to have to be able to sell this wine, so you better know what you're talking about. I was like, well, that sounds really interesting. I would like to know more about wine for sure. So I went and I sat down, and there's a few things that I learned about wine. And here's a number of them. Okay, you've heard of a style of wine called a port, right? See, like rich, in the movies, like rich guys sitting around drinking a port. Well, what port is it's a wine that comes from Portugal. Right, Portugal. That's the word Portugal means port of something or other. But what happened was that the Spanish and the Portuguese, they learned that you could not ship wine. Right, you couldn't put it in barrels and put it on a ship and then serve it to your crew because it would go bad because of all the tossing and turning. Right, the more you shake wine up, the more you destroy it. So what they did is they added sugar to it, a lot of sugar, and some other things, some other spices and whatnot. What they did is they made it more syrupy. And in that way, that particular style of wine would carry. You would be able to ship it without ruining it. And that's literally where that wine, that style of wine comes from. It comes from Portugal, the port of Portugal. Because it literally means like a shipping port. Like this is the wine that we're going to use. Long story short, you cannot ship wine. Anytime you ship wine, you ruin it, right? If you put it on a ship and carry it across the ocean, well, that ship is going to rock back and forth. It's going to ruin that wine. If you put it in an airplane and fly it across the ocean, well, you're going to get up to about 33,000 feet, where the radiation is a very much different scenario up there than it is down here, and therefore, you're going to ruin that wine. If you put it on a truck and drive it from Napa Valley, California to New Ipswich, New York, you're going to ruin that wine because that's 3,000 miles of a constant vibration. You're going to ruin your wine. So whenever you go to the store, I'm not saying don't buy wine, okay? I'm not saying that. There's a lot of good wines that you can get at Costco and whatever, and you should enjoy it and learn, just learn a thing or two about wine and become a little bit of a wine snob. I think that that's a good thing to be snobby about. What I am saying is that the only way that you are ever going to truly be able to appreciate a glass of wine is if you get it at the source. Now, you drive out to Napa, right? You drive out to wine country, take your wife, take your kids, go on the little tour, right? You can go to all these different vintners, right? Go to all these different vintners. Now, the vintner is the guy or lady who owns the vineyard, right? So you go to those different vintners, and they will give you free samples of their wine. And if you drink that wine, it's going to taste very different. It's going to be much more, there's going to be a refreshing element to that wine when you drink it. And here's why. Because in order to ship wine through the air or on trucks or whatever, what they do now is they add sulfites to it. Now, sulfites, by the way, occur naturally, and whenever you make wine, wine is going to have sulfites in it. But when you add sulfites to it, you make it so that it can be preserved and therefore can be shipped. However, you've now added something to the wine, and so it's ruined. It's not ruined to the point where you can't drink it, but it's ruined in the sense that if you go to the actual vineyard and take the tour, they're going to give you wine that was made right there, and it'll probably be chilled. You could have a meal, a very expensive meal, and probably some free wine. Dude, I've gone to vineyards where, like, man, I got drunk off of the free wine, just going vineyard to vineyard to vineyard and tasting their wines and just got smashed. All right, that's a good day. That's a fun day out. What's my point? Why did I just tell you all of that stuff? Oh boy, here's why. I have something nice to say about France. Right? If you go in America, like if you go try to buy a bottle of Bordeaux, like a good Bordeaux, right? you're going to spend $80, $100, probably even north of that. You're going to spend a lot of money. But if you go to France and you go to a little town called Bordeaux and drink that wine where Bordeaux comes from, it's going to be a completely different experience, and it's going to cost you about $7. Right? That bottle of wine that you can get in America for, I don't know, $100, it's going to cost you about $7 in Bordeaux. And it's not had anything added to it because they have no intention of shipping it. Right? Because that's that town's wine, and those people are very prideful, even arrogant about their wine. And as well they should be. They're snobs, and they should be. So one nice thing that I have to say about France is they're very good at crafting wines. And if you go to the source, if you go to that town and you go to those vineyards, or if you go to Australia and you go up to the Hunter Valley vineyards, right? Or if you go to Champagne, or if you go to, wherever, you're going to have a very different experience. If you go to Spain, Spain is also very much like France, and by that I mean everybody there, almost everybody there is a complete asshole. But man, can they make some good drinks? Man, can they make some good food? Oh boy, right? So that's one nice thing I have to say about France. And also, beautiful countryside in the south. Right? There's a reason why people talk about the south of France. Oh, the south of France. It's beautiful down there. But here's the thing. The French people have gone through a lot. Right? The shaping of that nation, you can trace it back hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And those people have gone through a lot. They've gone through many different styles of government and all these different, like all of the great, postmodernist thinkers. A lot of them came from France. You know what I mean? Those are those people, and they're very eager to separate their history from, themselves from their history, because their history is not only is it brutal and bloody, but it's also very Christian, right? And they want to separate all of it, right? In order to get some distance between some of the atrocities that they themselves have committed as people in the past, right? Obviously not the people living today, but they just want to get rid of all of it. And when they look at America and they see like, oh no, those people are still very Christian in their way of life and in their beliefs and what they hold dear, they hate it. And it's strange too, because we have saved their asses. Like I've told you guys, I was very close to my great-grandfather, Grandpa Birch. George Birch was his name. I was very close to him, and he was 94, I want to say, or 96 when he died. But this was a man who fought in World War One. This was a man whose mother babysat for Abraham Lincoln's younger siblings, because they were from Illinois or whatever, right? I knew this man. I was close to this man. He fought in the trenches in France in World War One, which, if you know your military history, like World War One was, I mean, it was not just costly in blood and treasure. It was the most brutal war, right? Like the Germans, I think it was the Germans had figured out like mustard gas. And by the way, mustard gas sounds like, oh, that sounds delicious on a hot dog. Well, listen, I don't know the history behind why they call it mustard gas. Here's what mustard gas is. It's dead chicken parts, right? You know that, if you go buy a piece of chicken at the grocery store, you leave it in your refrigerator for 3 days, you have to throw it out, right? It's not the same as beef. Now you can take a piece of beef and throw it in your refrigerator, let it sit there for 3 days, pull it out, and you know that it's kind of stinky, but you can still throw it on a grill and eat it and not suffer any consequences. Not chicken. Chicken will kill you. And people figured that out a long time ago. So what they used to do is they would take chicken guts and they would put them in a pile and they just let them rot. And then they would take that rotten chicken stuff and make chemical weapons out of it. That's literally what mustard gas is. In World War I, there was no laws against using it. There was no NATO or United Nations or anything like that. There had been no Geneva Convention, nothing like that. So my grandfather fought for France, right? And then in the Second World War, we had to go over there and protect their asses again. And for some reason, these people who are always flying the white flag, we surrender. Right? These people who are so prideful and arrogant, anytime the heat gets put on them a little bit, they start waving them, okay, come on in, Germany. Or okay, or we're just gonna lay down and spread our butt cheeks. Come on in, Germany, give it to us. That's who the French people are. That's who they are, proven by history. You see what I'm saying? Like historically proven, that is who the French are. Because we've never known a different France, right? From my great-grandfather till now, France has never been a different kind of people. And for Macron to stand up there and try to rebuke the president of the United States by saying, well, we think nationalism is treason. It's like, whoa, right? No, that word nationalist, it's like, look, I'm a patriot, right? And I would never consider myself a nationalist unless we were talking about like, well, I love my nation. Does that make me a nationalist? I think that my nation should put its needs first and other people's needs second. That the way that we help, the way that we address the needs of needy people in other nations is we take care of ourselves first. Right? If we want to bring wealth to another nation, then we first have to acquire the wealth as a nation. Does that make me a nationalist? I didn't think so up until just recently. Right? I didn't know. I always just thought nationalist meant somebody who just thought their nation was the best and at the same time thought screw everybody else, everybody who's not us. But when we say nationalist, it's like, well, here. I'm not a globalist, but I believe that, as somebody who's not a globalist, I still want to do, as an individual, I still want to do business with as many people around the globe as possible. Why? Well, because the more people that I can do business with, the more money I make. Does that make me a globalist? No, it makes me somebody who appreciates the globe, right? It's the ist, the ist or the ism, ISM at the end, or IZM, however it works out. It's like I'm not a communist, but I believe very strongly in community. I'm not a socialist, but I believe very strongly in society, or in being social. I'm not a nationalist, but I believe very strongly in my nation. And what's the difference? If you put it to me, it's like, well, a nationalist is somebody who says, I think the press should be free, but also completely run by the government, completely run by the state. Up until Donald Trump brought it up, I thought that that's what nationalist meant. And I think to a large degree, like, it still does. But that's not what Donald Trump was saying. All these people talking about, like, oh, Donald Trump kicked out Jim Acosta. This is a molestation of the First Amendment, the freedom of the press, man. It's like, no. He didn't say that CNN needs to be run by the government. Because if he did, I would fly back to America and buy a gun. Do you understand the difference? Donald Trump saying, I believe that our nation should be first. And these people keep calling me a nationalist. Well, I guess I'm a nationalist. If loving my country means if that's what being a nationalist is, well, I guess I'm a nationalist. But the thing is, he's not a nationalist in the old sense, what we always thought nationalist was. He's not a nationalist saying we think that the press should be run by the nation, right? We don't think that, anything should be run by the government, because every time the government does something, like run Amtrak, for example, that's a very easy target for me. Anytime the government runs everything, they're inept. Their politicians are not business people. And we finally have a business person as the chief of all politicians. And what a miraculous thing that it's been. And he's up there saying, like, well, I'm a nationalist because I love my nation. And we want to help these other nations, but the way that we help other nations is not by letting France and Germany put it in our butthole every time it comes time to pay for NATO, or it comes time to pay for the UN or the Paris Climate Accord. The president that used to let you let Saudi Arabia and France and Angela Merkel and all these people keep plugging his butthole, that was Barack Obama, and he's gone. We don't have that president anymore, France. You want to stand there and rebuke the leader of the free world because he made you pay your bills, you little bitch? Who do you people think you are? How do you think this is going to... Now you're talking about forming a military so that you can protect yourself from the United States? Ladies and gentlemen, that's leading somewhere. You need to open your eyes. Now Angela Merkel's up there talking about it. You need to open your eyes, because what's going to happen if that goes through, right? Who do you think they're going to be buying their airplanes from? Who do you think they're going to be buying their weapons from? Who do you think they're going to be buying their tanks from? It's not going to be us. And what's the first order of business going to be once Europe unites under one military? By the way, I was about to say I hate to bring this up, but I don't hate to bring this up. There's actually a book in the Bible that talks about this very thing. This exact same scenario. And what do you think is going to happen when the EU, headed by Germany, comes to America and says, listen, you need to get your military out of our country? What do you think is going to happen? How many different ways can that possibly go wrong? For us and them. Weird. Anyways, nationalism. France. France. I said two good things. I had beautiful scenery, very good wine, shitty people. I have some friends, close friends that are French, A couple of them. And listen, I've gotten rebuked for this before, like, because I've ripped on France, but I've been to France a number of times. And I've caught heat for saying this amongst some of my other friends who travel. They say, oh, it's not everybody. But yeah, I know it's not everybody, but it's a lot. Like, you people back in the States, like, if you've ever thought, like, oh, I'd like to go to Paris, or maybe one of your loved ones has said, oh, I'd like to go to Paris. Listen to me. And by the way, I'm not the only one saying this. I am not the only source of this breaking news. Paris is an absolute shithole. It's an absolute shithole. For example, have you ever gone to Disneyland? Right? Not Disney World in Florida, but Disneyland in Los Angeles. Right? Where is it? It's in Anaheim. And when you drive to Disneyland, it's like, yeah, inside the park is really nice, but Anaheim is a complete wasteland of shitholiness. It's terrible. So it's like, yeah, in Paris, you've got the Louvre. There is a couple of nice restaurants. There's a high degree of, good fashion there to be purchased, but Paris is a shithole. It's a terrible place. It's a terrible place that has terrible weather filled with terrible people. Don't go there, right? Anyways, moving on, going on to, listen, I really don't, well, actually I do. Again, I was going to say I don't like talking about this, but actually I do. The left, these leftists, it's like they can't seem to help themselves shoot themselves in the foot and cannibalize one another, right? Like yesterday we talked about Brenda Snipes down there in Broward County. It's like a lady who has been convicted. She has a criminal record. And what crime had she committed in the past? Voter fraud. Screwing with the votes. She was accused and she was convicted. And somehow she's still the chief of all voting there in Broward County. Again, it's like, all right, so you leftists, when the president of the United States calls up the FBI and says, I want you to go down there and investigate what the hell is going on in Broward County, you think he's not going to be justified? You think half of the nation isn't going to look at that and be like, yeah, that seems legit. That seems like a reasonable concern. Why would you leave that lady in charge? Like, it would be... If you want to screw with the system and have somebody corrupt in that office, that's fine, right? We already knew you were going to cheat anyways, but you're just going to leave that lady in there with her criminal record? Like, how come you guys can't stop shooting yourself in the foot? But that's not what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about the gold mine, which is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. 4 more years. 4 more years. I'm so happy about this. I'm so happy that we get to watch the blunders and the horrific shit show that is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So, Alexandria, she forms a protest. Right? This is beautiful. Again, it's like, every time I see the Democrats, it's like they're going... It's like, what you eating? Oh, they're Democrats. They just can't help cannibalizing themselves. So Ocasio-Cortez has a rally, has a protest. Where? At Nancy Pelosi's office. I mean, this is hilarious. It's like, you can't make this stuff up. There's a reason why, like, in scriptures it says a house divided cannot stand. That's called wisdom. It's called age-old proven wisdom. There's no getting around it. It's like, it's in the Bible, it's correct. A house divided cannot stand. And here they are just cannibalizing themselves. Where is she protesting? Nancy Pelosi. Fantastic. But even further than that, so Amazon wants to make a headquarters in the Bronx, in New York, and Ocasio-Cortez is protesting it. So give you a little bit of a backstory here. Seattle is currently the headquarters of Amazon. It's also the headquarters of Boeing. It's also the headquarters of Microsoft. Oh, actually, let me take that back. Boeing has already left. They're no longer headquartered down there in Federal Way. They still have a huge presence there, but they're not. They moved to like South Carolina, I think. Why? Why did they do that? Because Democrats can't seem to help themselves. They can't seem to figure out that it's like, okay, small, medium, and large business is your lifeblood, right? The more people who are able to go to work every single day and earn a living in your community, the better that your society is, right? That's society. Socialism is where the government comes in and says, we need to take as much money from everybody as possible. And since the business has the majority of the money, right, because all the money eventually has to flow through that business, right? It goes from the pocket of the consumer into the bank account of the business and then into the payroll of the employee. And the socialist government wants to tax all three of those parties. All right, so here's Boeing that sells a product that costs $300 million. Right? A Boeing 747 or 777, that's $300 million it's going to run you for one of those, and that's what Boeing sells. It's a lot of money. And the city or whatever of Seattle has decided to tax the crap out of businesses like Boeing. And so Boeing says, listen, we have a profit margin here. And when you dip into that threatens us. Because sometimes we're rolling in dough and sometimes we're working at it out of a deficit. That's the nature of business. It's seasonal. Sometimes people want to buy 100 planes, and sometimes people want to return the planes that they bought from you because they're defective or whatever, and you're not selling any planes. And let me tell you something, when you're not selling any $300 million airplanes, guess what? You still have to pay your employees, and you still have to buy raw materials, and you still have to pay for chemical, disposal. Like, you still have to pay your bills. Oh, I can't pay my bills this month. Sorry, employees, I can't pay my bills this month because I didn't sell any airplanes. Or do you think there's a line around the corner of people just waiting to buy a $300 million airplane? No, there's not. These people are idiots. So anyways, Boeing leaves. They move to South Carolina, or North Carolina, one of those two. Because they want to go somewhere that's more friendly to their tax needs. Right? They're not saying they want to not pay taxes. They've been paying taxes the entire time. When the socialists took over Seattle, they're like, okay, well, I guess we can't afford to live here. Now we have Jeff Bezos, who is a socialist. He's a complete socialist. Right? He's one of those people. Did you see him a couple of weeks ago? Oh, we're going to do the right thing and raise our minimum wage up to $15 an hour now. I recommend that everybody does this. And Jeff Bezos is leaving Seattle. You know why? Because the leftists have choked to death on their own sense of self-righteousness. They're choking themselves out. Now, Boeing and Amazon are leaving Seattle. Do you know what Seattle was before it was Microsoft and Boeing and Amazon? You know what that town was? Fish, coffee, and lumber. Seattle was a small town that was built because of the gold rush. They've got good fish. There's good fish in there. It's the #1 coffee port in the world. And I don't know if you've been to Washington or Western Washington, but it's nothing. It's solid trees from front to back. And then Microsoft comes along, in order of appearance, Boeing comes along. Says, hey, we got a port right here. We can ship things directly from Indonesia right into our port here, and then we can build the planes right here on the ocean. We'll fly them right out of here. Then Microsoft came along, now Amazon, and there's a number of companies that have been headquartered there. And they've gotten rich. And what have they done in their wealth and power? They've pissed it all away. And now all of their leftist friends are like, I can't afford to do business here anymore. You people are crazy with your taxes. I'm out. I'll take my $15 an hour that I pay my employees and I'll take that to New York. Or Washington, D.C. in the case of Jeff Bezos. You know, that's ultimately that's the end. That's how socialism kills itself. That's why socialism kills everything it touches. Because it can't help to choke itself out. That's why I was saying, like, the only place that socialism actually does belong is in campaign finance. You want to fix campaign finance? Apply socialism to it. You'll see that thing get straightened out real quick. Right? You have a problem with, are you one of the people screaming for campaign finance reform? Apply socialism to it. One big pot of money and everybody gets an equal cut of it. The president, the Congress people, the senators, everybody. Anybody who's campaigning, they all have to draw from one pot. And they only get the same amount. You'll see campaign finance reform real quick. Let these socialists be true to their word when it comes to campaign finance. And you will see reformation. And you'll see it immediately. It's like Warren Buffett said. He said, I could fix everything. I think he said I could fix the national deficit in 3 years. And they said, well, how could you do that? He says, oh, it's simple. Anytime somebody doesn't come up with a balanced budget, they lose their job. And you just keep cycling people through there until you get the right people in there that know that understand economics to a degree. You know what I mean? Like eventually, all your Congress people and senators, they'd all just be accountants, right? You tell them, just let me run everything, and I can fix everything. And it's real simple. If you don't do your job, you get fired. But these jobs, Congress people and senators, like once you have a federal job, like it's nearly impossible for you to get fired. That's a huge problem, right? You want to see socialism actually do what it does because it kills everything, right? Campaign finance needs to be killed. That's why you need to apply socialism to it, because socialism kills everything that it touches. You want to see politicians get fixed, then let everything in the inner workings of federal employment, let that be run as a socialist thing, because socialism kills. It kills everything, right? You make it so that, I guess that was a bad example as it applies to politicians, but you make it so that politicians actually have to go to work and actually have to produce results. That's what Warren Buffett was saying. Speaking of Warren Buffett, let me just say another thing. Like I've alluded to this before. It's not just that politics are crazy. Everything's crazy right now. And I don't know how it happened. Now that I look back over my life, I can kind of see the progression. I mean, I think for most of us, it seems like this has only been going on in the last, few years, but not really. I can look back on things in the early 90s where, I didn't see it, but like now that I look back, it's like, oh, that's what that was. That was when this mighty tree that we're trying to chop down right now was just a little seedling. People being rude to one another over differences of opinion and shouting matches and that sort of thing. But one other thing too, another aspect of the craziness of the world is the cryptocurrency market, right? I've been keeping my eye on it. This whole show, if you're new to the podcast, this podcast used to be called the Cryptocurrently Podcast. And it was all we talked about was cryptocurrencies and the relevance of things that are happening today. Now, around this time late December, early January last year, the cryptocurrency market had over $800 billion in it. And right now it has $206 billion in it. Where did that money go? And this is one thing I was noticing back then is like all the people that were involved, not you and me people, but like the people that worked at these companies that offered cryptocurrencies and all of these experts that they were trotting out and all these people were talking complete horseshit. And the more that I would interview these people, the more I realized like, oh, you people are talking nonsense. And nobody's going to call you out on it because you have this title on you that says, I'm an expert. It's like when you go to the hospital and somebody's wearing a white, smock, you think, oh, that person must be a doctor. It's like, well, dude, that could just be a crazy person dressed up like a doctor. You don't know. You don't know who that person is. And there were all these people that kept, like, because Warren Buffett was coming out and saying, listen, you people, you need to slow it down. People keep coming up to me and asking me, like, why don't you invest in Bitcoin or whatever? And Warren Buffett was like, because it doesn't make any sense. That's why. And also, I'm the richest man in the world when it comes to being an investor. I am the wealthiest investor who's ever lived. So I'm good. I have more money than I could. Not only could I not spend all of my money, but my children's children could not spend all of it. Like if every generation in my bloodline for the next 3 generations worked tirelessly every day to blow through my money, they wouldn't be able to get to the end of it. I don't need to buy Bitcoin, 1, because I don't need the money, and 2, because it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And there were all these people coming out and saying, oh, Warren Buffett, he's just this old fuddy. I talked about it. I talked about it a number of times. It's like, do not raise your voice to Warren Buffett. Even if he's wrong, he's right. They would say like, oh, well, you didn't make all the billions of dollars you could have made on Amazon.com back in 1998. It's like, go back to 1998 and see what was going on. Amazon.com is like one of the only companies that made it out of the tech bubble, and they didn't do it without shedding any blood. The price of a share of Amazon went from like $1,000 to like $7 or something like that. I can't remember the numbers, but it was something crazy like that. It's like, no, that's what Warren Buffett was talking about. He was right. Oh, but Amazon right now is back to $20,000 per share. It's like, oh, you mean 20 years later? Oh, yes, you're absolutely right. How very smart you are. And if it wasn't people that were trying to rebuke the wisest investor who ever lived, which is always, it's like, dude, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't try to make yourself sound like people should listen to you and not Warren Buffett. Because no matter what, I said this a million times, like, you need to invest. You do not need to speculate. You can speculate. It's fun to speculate, but don't get it twisted. You're not investing. You're not investing. You're speculating. If you want to speculate, then I think cryptocurrencies is probably a good place for you to be. But don't get it. Don't misuse that word. And don't try to start a YouTube channel and a podcast and make yourself sound like you're some wise investor. Like, what was that guy's name? He's like the poker player guy, right? I can't remember what his name. He lives in Las Vegas. He tried to make himself look like an expert. Trayvon James, who I think almost went to jail, right? He was the BitConnect guy. This is what my point is like, it's not just politics where leftists have gone crazy. It's also in this new place called the cryptocurrency market where everybody's going crazy. And listen, I have a lot of good things to say about my hopes for the cryptocurrencies and the companies and the blockchain and all that other stuff. But not right now, I don't. Right now, there's nothing good about cryptocurrency, nothing. Right? If you are a buy and hold and forget, then I think you'll be fine in the long run. I think 20 years from now, you're gonna be very happy that you bought yourself a little Bitcoin or Ethereum or Litecoin or whatever. But it's not going to be this year. It's not going to be in the next 12 months, and it's not going to be in the next 5 years. Right? It's going to take a long time, just like Amazon. in 1998 or whatever, 2000, 2001, whatever it was. But it's that idea. It's like, look, whenever like something comes along, here comes the cryptocurrency market, and who do we meet? We meet that guy that has man tits that was in charge of Mt. Gox, who ripped all those peoples off, billions of dollars, or at least hundreds of millions. Just ripped people right off. Not a damn thing you can do about it. You know why? Not against the law. You have an unregulated market. He didn't break any laws because there are no laws to break. Moving forward, we come to BitConnect, a literal Ponzi scheme. Let me tell you something about Ponzi schemes. There's a reason why they work. There's a reason why it's effective. It's like, listen, here's how we're gonna get rich. You're gonna give me $1. And what you need to do is you need to go out and preach my gospel to 10 people and get those 10 people to give you $1 a piece. Then you come to me and you have to give me 8 of those dollars. I'm gonna let you keep 2, but it's all profit. But here's where it gets rad. Those 10 people, you need to get them to go preach the gospel of my word. And each of those people need to find 10 people to give you $1. And then those 10 people will come back to you, and they're each going to give you $8, right? So now you've got $80, and you need to give me, you know what I'm saying? And it just builds and builds and builds, and people think like, wow, this is mind-blowing. It's like, no, this is a Ponzi scheme. And it's called a pyramid, right? And the funny thing about pyramids is they come to a very final point where you can't go any higher. And that's the first thing that we saw in cryptocurrencies. The first thing we saw and what we have seen is crooks, snake oil salesmen, and wannabe experts that are coming out saying, don't listen to Warren Buffett. What does he know? He's an old fuddy-duddy. Screw him. Nobody knows more than Warren Buffett. Even if you're wrong, like even if 20 years ago, when Warren Buffett was saying you people need to stay out of the tech sector, this thing is going to blow up. Even if you were the lucky lottery winner who had all of your marbles in the one basket of Amazon and then you didn't touch that basket for 20 years, Warren Buffett was still right. Right? He was still right. The tech bubble collapsed. The nation went through a recession. It was awful. And people killed themselves. There's literally dead people because of the tech bubble. How many people do you think killed themselves in the last 12 months because of cryptocurrencies? Because they put all their eggs, they went and they borrowed student loan money. This is a fact. People went and borrowed student loan money, federally backed, by federal, I mean you, taxpayer-backed federal student loans. They went and they borrowed all this money that was supposed to be for their education, their grotesquely overpriced education, and they went and they bought Ethereum or Dogecoin or whatever the hell it was they went and bought. And guess what? They went broke. And they still have to pay back the student loans, and they can't go to school because they took their school money and blew it all on cryptocurrencies. How many of those people killed themselves and are now dead? You see what I'm saying? This is the craziness. The craziness. The crazy. And that's what my show was always about. When it was about cryptocurrencies, it was never about giving out the right investment advice. It was always about, hey, dear listener, don't go crazy. Keep your mind about you. Shit's going to get weird, and it's going to happen real soon. You better keep things in perspective. Remember, you're not investing, you're speculating. It's fine. As I said many times before, I believe that speculation, because it requires balls, that you should do it. Just don't get it twisted. Right? If you go to the horse track, now you might be a serious handicapper. There's guys that can sit down and be like, oh, this horse is a mutter, and his mutter was a mutter. You know what I mean? Remember that Seinfeld? Like, there's guys that can tell you everything about horses. But when they go to the horse track and they put money down on the horse that they like, they still know there's a very high rate of times that they're going to be wrong, and they're going to lose that money. And they're aware of it, right? They know, like, this is gambling. Like, I'm real smart. I'm very good at knowing about, stuff about horses, but at the end of the day, I'm still gambling. That's what speculating is. Don't go crazy. And what did the cryptocurrency market do? It went crazy to the tune of $800 billion that pop, just poof, disappeared. And where did it go? Where did all that money go? It went into the hands of the people who sold the coins. Right? It's like if you bought Amazon stock and then all of a sudden it crashed, and then the next day, a news article comes out, oh, Jeff Bezos, he is now worth $1 trillion more than he was worth yesterday. You'd be like, wait a minute. But that wouldn't happen because we have regulations, right? We have rule of law. And when you look at the cryptocurrencies, it's like I said, like if that's happening, then there's other areas and aspects of life where that's going to be happening too. Like in the political climate and the cultural climate where everybody's running around calling everybody a racist. And there's a lot of people out there that are like, no. That's not what that word means. And not everybody's a racist. And for the people who actually are racist, we need to look at why they're a racist. Were they offended by another race? Were they brutally beaten by members of another race and now they have a stigma on those people? Is there some sort of justification for this horrific condition that these people are in? Oh, Donald Trump is literally Adolf Hitler. It's like, oh, I don't think you know what the word literally means. Adolf Hitler was literally Hitler, and nobody else can be literally Hitler because Adolf Hitler was literally Hitler. Donald Trump is literally Hitler. Don't think you know what that word means, literally. Right? The word fascist, fasci, it means a bundle of sticks. That's where Mussolini came up with the fascist party. It means bundles of sticks. It was symbology of saying like stronger together. Stronger together. Right? You can take a stick and you can break it, but if you put a bunch of sticks together, you can't break it. Why? Because they're stronger together. And there's all these people running around going, you're a fascist, you're a fascist, you're a fascist. And then Hillary Clinton comes along, runs for president. What is her campaign slogan? Literally stronger together. Literally the fascist, as in literature, literally the fascist thing. And nobody sees it. Nobody says anything about it. It's like you are actually running on Mussolini's platform. Stronger together. That's what Mussolini taught. That's what his message was. And nobody has anything to say about this. It's weird. I made this point like 10 years ago. Right? It was, George Bush was leaving office. And it was, I think it was, who was it? John McCain was running for president for the Republicans, and there was Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and some other guys for the Democrat Party. Like early on in the before the Democrats chose to run Barack Obama, when they chose to run Barack Obama instead of Hillary Clinton, it was like I was looking at that going, wait a minute. This is a junior senator. Is nobody going to say anything about you? The Democrats are running a junior senator. This has never happened before. Am I on crazy pills? How is it that I'm the only person seeing this? You're running a junior senator. Nobody said anything, and he became president, and now we pay the price for allowing a junior senator from the most corrupt, Chicago. Here's an interesting, so I don't have it pulled up right now, but you guys remember Blagojevich, right? He was the guy from Chicago. He went to prison. What was he, mayor or senator or congressman or whatever he was? He went to prison. He's in prison right now. His wife is actually asking Trump for a pardon. And I think they should give it to him. I thought, although I do believe he should have gone to jail, I think that the sentence that they gave him was a little over the top, but whatever. Chicago has a very large number of former Chicago politicians that are right now in prison. In prison, right? Chicago's like the most corrupt place in America when it comes to politics. And they let a junior senator from that place run for president. Just, okay. And Hillary Clinton lost. And 2 years ago, they let Hillary Clinton run again. It's like, dude, you don't let a previous loser run for president. That's why Al Gore never ran for president again. Because for time in memoriam, if you did not win, then you did not run again. Because you've been proven that you cannot finish the race. And twice she has run. And guess what? Now there's murmuring that they're going to let her run a third time. It's like, I mean, I'm all for it. I'm all for it because it's like, oh boy. Like, you can't win. Like, I don't care. You can run anybody under the Republican banner and that person's going to win. It's nuts. They're talking about letting her run again. And that's what I'm saying. It's like the politicians have gone crazy. The society has gone crazy. Cryptocurrencies is crazy. The stock market, everything is crazy. France is losing their mind. Europe is talking about forming a military. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, everything's crazy. But I want you to keep this in mind. I saw, you remember we had Aaron on, 2 weeks ago from the Proud Boys? And his girlfriend is the one who kind of set that up, that meeting. And thank you again for that, Nellie. But I was Nellie had posted something on her Facebook the other day, and I was looking at that, and it was an article talking about once you unplug from your television and from your phone, and you leave politics in your drawer, in your walkway at your home. You take your phone out and you just leave it in the drawer. You get in your car and you go for a drive. And you go bump into other Americans. America is still a wonderful place full of wonderful, wonderful people. And I don't want you to lose sight of that. Now, I want to talk about these things because I see what we're going through right now as being the same thing that Germany went through in the very early 1930s, right? Hitler didn't just come to power and just start slaughtering Jews. There was an entire buildup. There was a whole sequence of events that took years before the big finale when we finally got Hitler. Like it was a very long story, and there were a number of people who chronicled everything. And I don't want you to lose sight of that. Like guys like, I keep bringing up Dietrich Bonhoeffer, which, again, you need to study. Read Dietrich Bonhoeffer, right? Because that guy was doing what I believe that I'm doing right now. And that's just like, hey, I'm just here to chronicle it and give my thoughts. People are going crazy, and everybody needs to be aware of that. You've got school shootings and barroom shootings, and you've got shootings over here, and terrorist training camps in New Mexico there, and you've got this going on over here, you got Broward County down there. It's all going crazy. But listen, don't forget that you are surrounded by good people. And that America is still, despite the fact that if you go to a city, you're going to run into the crazies, then there's the rest of America that really couldn't give a shit less. Right? They're just still going to work, and they're going to church, and they're raising their kids, and they're going to band practice, and dance recitals, and horseback riding lessons, and Krav Maga, and jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? Like they're just doing their lives. Go meet those people, and remember, you're still surrounded by good, and protected by good. And that's the beauty of community. That's the show for today. If you want to support the show, hit subscribe. And if you want to throw me a couple of bucks, you can go on archadvocate.com, arch-advocate.com. If you want to become a monthly patron, would appreciate that. If you want to send a PayPal and write a note, I will read it on the podcast, thus making you famous in front of all of your friends. That's how fame works, people. I peddle it. Peddling fame over here. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and all of you supporters that are already, patron members and people that donate on PayPal. Listen, I'll never be able to put it into words. Thank you guys so much, and girls, guys and girls, and yeah, no baby to report yet. Hopefully that baby will come out today, and then if that happens, I'll have a baby to show you on the show tomorrow. That's it. Enjoy your day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.